afternoon everyone, we're back at Tankersley Park Golf Club with Sam and we're going to be doing a video today,
something different, haven't we?
A bit of something different and a bit of a replica to one of my best videos of all time. It was actually one of the first videos I ever did. And it was basically how to re-grip a golf club using household materials, and you know, for the purpose of trying to help people, you know, with reshaft, because Sam probably weren't aware of this, but I spoke to a lot of subscribers during lockdown who, you know, live in Canada and
you were saying
places like that.
2 hours to a pro shop and things like that. So
and they can have 2 hours to get to a pro, you know, and when it comes to sort of club repairs and things like that, and you've got to leave it, it's just not. There's no way of doing it. So
absolutely,
we're going to do his best to show you how to basically
reshaft from home. I mean, today we've got a graphite driver shaft. The customer wants it cutting down 1/2 inch, so tip stiffening, and a new adapter putting on essentially. So they're moving from a Callaway adapter to the Ping. So we're going to give it with household materials and show you how it's done.
So we're going to try and show you a step-by-step guide. Keep it as simple as possible, just using things that, you know, you're likely to have in your garage at home, or what you can, you know, quite easily get from a hardware shop.
Let's get it.
So what we're doing today could come under criticism by professionals.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're doing it garage style, aren't we? We are showing you guys how to do it from home. If I'm doing something like I've done 4 today down here that we're going to give you a little sneaky peek of in a minute, you know, I've got the shaft extractor, I've got the grinder, I've got everything that I need to do it to that standard, you know, and I can do it to the same standard with the garage techniques. It's just a longer process.
Yeah,
it's tools that make the job quicker.
And I would say with the garage technique as well, you've got to try and do it with a lot more care.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to talk you through a couple of little bits, obviously, to make sure, you know, don't burn the graphite is the main one.
There's a couple of sort of key areas to this where, you know, when it comes to pulling the tip off, you know, ideally you'd have a shaft extractor, and we're going to try and do this, you know, obviously garage style way, but it needs to be done with care, and it does come at a risk as well, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
But we are doing this to try and help subscribers, and especially subscribers who don't have access to a pro.
There's a lot of people, like you said, we said earlier,
and they're willing to take a chance.
It's miles away, and it's easier to do it than drive 2 hours.
Yeah. So we're going to do it step by step, and obviously, you know, if you are going to have a go at this, you need to really do it by care and not rush, don't
Absolutely. It's something that you're taking your time with. Do not rush it, or it will end in disaster.
So, first things first, we've got this shaft with a tip on, haven't we?
So to me, Callaway shaft, and we are physically heat gun.
Heat gun.
With a graphite shaft, heat gun. You know, if you get the blowtorch out on it, it's so easy to melt the graphite. You burn it, the shaft's ruined.
And if you've not got a heat gun, guys, you can pick these up off eBay. They're about $9.99 out there. Not expensive
Not at all. It's genuinely just hot a hairdryer.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have a go with a hairdryer and just sit there longer, I suppose.
Yeah. To be fair though,
get the same
sometimes
heat.
you have to wait quite a while.
Wait a while.
With a heat gun, so I think for a matter of $9.99, it's something you need in your armour.
So, let's get it.
We haven't got a vice at home.
You've got the vice? Well, I've got the vice.
Have we got one at home though?
Well,
these guys got one at home. Can we do it without a vice?
There's no chance you do it out of vice with the heat. You're going to burn your fingers off. But here, Gaz, hold that. How heavy is it?
It could be a 2-man job. You could get your missus to hold it up.
Hey, love, how heavy is this?
What do you reckon? If we're doing it home style, not everyone's going to have a vice, are they?
Well, you can hold it in a little adapter. I suppose you hold it outside and pull. Yeah, we'll have a go. Go on then. No VAT adapter.
Yeah.
No adapter.
No adapter. No vice.
No vice.
Right.
Going for it.
So
you're holding it, are you?
Yeah.
So I'll always point the heat away from the shaft, and I'm essentially looking for a slight little discolourment change, and I'll keep rotating it, and eventually I'm going to see the ferrule melt, which again gives me an indication that we're getting close to being hot enough, but I'm wanting the heat to travel up the adapter as opposed to going down into the graphite. I want it to burn the glue and loosen the epoxy as opposed to it burn everything.
I like that because a lot of people would cut that off straight away.
Yeah.
But that's actually protecting the shaft.
So essentially with a heat gun I'll be there 30 seconds. Just giving it enough.
This next bit is going to be tricky without a shaft puller.
Agreed.
Especially with it being graphite as well. You know, it's not perfect. But it could save you a 4-hour round trip. And quite a lot of money as well. mean, what do you charge for this?
Just for an adapter change, I'll be looking at 34 quid roughly with a new grip.
Yeah.
34.99. I'm pretty good with that.
So a lot of people might not really be able to.
I think this could be
afford
heated up. So,
what if you haven't got one of these? What about pliers?
so pliers again, they could work. I think pliers might be the better option.
Sometimes you have to actually heat this up a little bit more. I mean, you're not going to overheat it, are you? But
Pliers, are we?
Yeah. I reckon we might have to add a bit more heat to this.
I think we might be alright. We might be alright.
Perfect. So when you're doing that, you've got to be careful. Try not to twist it so much.
Very, very hot. Yeah, if you twist,
pull,
you're twisting the graphite. You've got to pull it. So like there now, we're perfect.
Yeah. Would you run that under tap?
I wouldn't. If I run it under the tap, you're essentially making the graphite really, really hard again straight away.
Yeah.
So because you're making the graphite hard again straight away, it's going to stiffen it.
I actually know the answer to that, guys, but I just wanted him to sort of, tell you guys, because it's a common mistake people make.
People run it under the tap, the fibres will weaken,
Yeah.
go really stiff really quick and just snap. So now all I'm going to do is Stanley knife. I hope you'd have a Stanley in your house, especially for when she doesn't make tea.
Yeah. We can't put that on.
Yeah, we can.
We're only a joke.
So, again, I'll cut the final ferrule off, and for me now,
How are you going to prep that? What are you going to do?
well, for me now, I'd be going straight to the grinder. I'd be getting all the excess glue off the outside, I'd be cutting the old grip off, and I'd be drilling the glue out at the top. So first things first for me now, doing it garage style, I'll be cutting the grip off. So always,
is this a hook blade?
I'm not a hook blade guy.
Right, okay.
I'm not a hook blade guy. I would recommend for guys at home doing it the first time, use your hook blade.
Yeah.
But for me, I'll fold the grip back, put a little incision in, especially with old grips.
I like how he's folded the grip back, because that means that if you were to make a mistake, it's not going to
cut the shaft.
It's not going to cut the shaft where you might see it once the grip's
So
applied.
essentially, now put the little splint in, and it will just pull off with a lot of old grips, very, very easily. Like so.
We've got to be careful as well, because you've got to remember Sam's really experienced, so we've got to do this as,
Slow as we can.
as slow as we can, but also adding as much detail as we can for the guys that aren't as experienced.
So essentially, why we're taking the grip off there is, luckily on this project, the grip was rhubarb and custard.
Yeah.
It was ready for a change. However, on a lot of other grips, you can save them with a rod, but if it's multi-compounds or anything like that, the cord will pop and it'll be no use.
Yeah.
So, to me, you have to cut the grip off, and it gives you obviously the airflow of pushing it back in.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to obviously I'm going to drill the glue out at the end of the shaft. So I don't know if you can see there, but that is the old epoxy in the end of the shaft.
And I've made this mistake as a junior assistant, where there's been sort of cushions in the shaft and there's no airflow, and you literally can't get the head on, can you?
No, so it's just a jammer. You want to allow, as the epoxy's in the head,
Yeah.
or the adapter for example, you're pushing the airflow down. The airflow's going down
Yeah.
into the head. There's nowhere for it to go. You need the airflow up the shaft and that little spacing just to release the air and let it set properly.
So once you've drilled the shaft out, just blow and make sure there's air coming out the other side. Because if there's no air coming through, there could be a cushion in the shaft, something blocking it, and it won't go on when you start to pull the shaft into the edge.
Myself now, I always go with a 3.5mm drill bit. Always have done, and I just find it easier to get the alignment. So for me, I'd go freehand and just play it in nice and steady. Do watch your fingers.
Again, this is something you might use a vise for if you've got one at home.
If you've got a vise, yeah.
And these clamps, they're not too expensive, are they? If this is something you might, do regular.
The clamps are $6.99 off Golfworks.
$6.99 for a shaft clamp. I mean, it should be in your armour, I reckon, if you're going to have a go at this.
I'm just banging the glue out at the bottom. Like Gaz says, give it a blow.
You can hear that, can't you?
We're all wind. So that means essentially I've got my airflow. So again now, I'd give it a little touch up again on the grinding wheel. We're not going to do that because there's a lot of people out at home. So I'm going to have a little bit of sandpaper. For the people at home
who's not as
experienced,
we need to make this.
We need to put a little bit.
We need to make it idiot proof, don't we?
Yeah. You guys, if you've got masking tape in the house, it'll work. For this instance, I'm going to use grip tape. So we're tipping it 5 inches.
Yeah.
I forgot about this. I'm
5 inches.
half an inch.
Half an inch, I'm going to say.
5 inches. Midget. So, I'm going to tip it half an inch first. Okay, so again, you can use masking tape for this. I'm going to use grip tape just because it's in my armoury.
Yeah.
So, for me now, I've prepared the shaft where I've got my double-sided tape all the way around. This is essentially going to stop the carbon fibre and the graphite splitting. So it's going to just give me that little barrier where I can cut through it and know that it's not going to splinter.
Yeah.
Again, as soon as it splinter, it's not only bad on the eye, it's going to affect the performance.
It's going to weaken the shaft, isn't it?
So, you want it tipping half an inch. I'm going to hold that there while Gaz marks it for me. So half an inch just on that little black mark.
So we're actually going to be cutting through the tape. We want to be.
Yeah, we want to cut through the tape because it's going to hold. It's not going to put us in a position where we're struggling. I'm going to put the heat gun on the floor.
I think what I would say, you know, if you're doing this at home and you haven't got a vice, you definitely need 2 people here to do this, don't you?
Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to two-man it, aren't we?
Yeah, we've used me to obviously secure the shaft when he was taking a tip off, and now obviously to brace it while he cuts it.
So, where's my saw? Again, you might just have a little hacksaw in the house.
I'm come round here actually, really.
I'm going with the big guns. We need a bit more of a bigger workshop. We need to get to this back wall.
I know.
So again, guys, I'll start off slowly, just down the line of my fingers.
And I'm going to spin it.
And I'm going to just start to spin it now, guys. So we're spinning the shaft here to get an even cut all the way around, so we don't end up on a tilt.
That's me met perfectly. I know that there'll be some people criticising this.
Oh, they can criticise, but we're doing it in the garage. We're not doing it in a workshop.
No, and you know, believe me, I speak to my subscribers. I know what they want, and you know, there's a lot of people out there that can't get to pro shops, and you know, end up with golf clubs that are broken and stuck in garage.
So again, this is something that we do very, very careful. It's a slowly catch a donkey. Don't try and cut straight through it because it'll just splinter. So there, it's slightly grabbing on the tape.
We're nearly there.
We're nearly there. I'm just trying not to splinter.
There you are.
There we are. So that is our ½ inch. So, now what I'm going to do is obviously remove the protective tape before we rudely interrupted.
This will be him. He wants to pick it up.
Yeah. Is it ready yet?
It always amazes me how people ring pro shops so late at night.
I mean, what time are we now?
It's
Nearly 5 o'clock.
I mean, we're on winter hours here in UK, so that is pretty late for a pro shop to be open because it's actually going dark. Yeah. But,
I don't know what he wants. Maybe an early tea time.
sometimes I've been at shop at sort of 7 at night after a few lessons and phones going.
Yeah.
You know, it always amazes me.
I agree. So now, sandpaper. I'll just be careful to sand the top. We're wanting to end up with that even finish. So I'm just getting the little splints of graphite off first to make sure that I don't cut myself. And then all I'm wanting to do is file it down to a flat surface for it to fit flush in the adapter with. So I've got some pretty high grain sandpaper here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be sort of 2 or 3 minutes of just sanding the top down to get it level both sides, because it's always going to be slightly different when you're doing it by hand.
Yeah.
It's never going to be perfect.
I think there's a great market in this as well. For, you know, junior assistants and new PGA professionals, I mean, you've got a great business here, aren't you, doing club repairs? But there's not many people do this anymore.
Tour X.
Yeah.
Tour X. Tour Truck Golf. That's about it. So
what tip is he going for?
he's moving to the ping.
Ping.
Which is...
Now this is an important bit, guys, because obviously tips are different lengths, aren't they? And we've got to make sure that
yeah.
we
so essentially
prepare the tip right here.
I will line up myself and take a little look at what depth I've got. So I'm going to be looking somewhere now where my 4th finger is where my line's going to be. So I'm going to make sure that I prepare the shaft.
Yeah.
So when I say I'm going to prepare the shaft, I'm going to remove the finish from the graphite so that it sticks to the graphite properly. If I just put glue straight to the epoxy straight onto the metallic finish, it's just going to slide. It's never going to stick properly.
We need kind of a rough finish here. We're going to take the gloss off the top of the graphite. What we don't want to do is take the gloss off where it might show, you know, and be exposed.
Exactly. So where I'm looking myself now, I'm going to just put a little mark, probably 1/8 of an inch, if that, from the end of where the adapter will sit, just to give me my guide of where I'm going to put my masking tape.
What's that, 1/2 centimetre or 1/4 of a centimetre?
All.
So, so it doesn't expose.
So all I'm going to do again, wherever I put my grip tape, it was here somewhere.
Do you mean that? Oh yeah.
There we go. Can't use new. I'll get sacked for things like that. So all I'm going to do again, guys, is put my masking tape down, or double-sided sticky tape, or whatever you've got in your artery.
These little things might seem very simple to some people, but I've seen some absolutely terrible jobs.
See, I had someone come in the other day.
Just through a lack of preparation.
Brought a shaft in from another pro shop, and I'm not going to mention any names, but they've just started out doing refurbs and little things like that. And they've put a vinyl finish onto the shaft, and then put the wrong grip on. So as they put the wrong grip on, they've then Stanley knife from about 3/4 of the way down the grip.
Yeah.
And just ripped all the vinyl off his golf shaft. And I think...
And that little key tip from you about rolling the grip back.
Yeah, it's just going to stop
the cut from, you know, where the shaft wouldn't be exposed.
I mean, don't get me wrong, iron shafts, unless they're obviously black satin or something like that, straight down them, it's not going to make a mark. You're not going to be worried about that. So all I've done here is I'm covering myself from scratching the finish off. So if you can see my prep at the top, I'm just going to now sandpaper that to get all the gloss off, to give us the best bonding surface for the adapter.
And again, this is something to do with care as well, you know. It's just about getting that gloss off. And again, you know, like if we had a vise, if you've got a vise at home, this would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
You do need a clamp though. You can't just put, you know, a vise at the shaft.
Don't just vise the shaft straight in. So essentially, all I'm doing here is just keeping turning it, keeping all the gloss come off.
What are these called? Just shaft clamps?
It's on GolfWorks.
GolfWorks?
Yeah.
Is that the website you use for bits and pieces?
GolfWorks, I think it's $7.99, $6.99, $7.99.
In an ideal world then, if they were ordering, you know, a few bits off GolfWorks, what would be your
The
essentials?
heat gun. The heat gun, definitely. Hook blade for you guys with the grips.
Yeah.
Someone that's not used to doing it every day, you know, you're going to have a little bit of a shake on because you don't want to knacker your golf clubs.
Yeah.
And then the clamp. So you're looking at 25 quid in your return to it, you can use it.
And I'll tell you what else is really good is buying proper grip tape, because when you use double-sided tape, the resin that comes out of double-sided tape is horrible.
It's crazy.
It's crazily sticky, it gets over everything. But this one, you know, you don't get much resin come off this tape.
So, if you can see now, it's a completely different finish to what I've got on the shaft. It's taken all that lacquer off. So all I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull my tape off again. I know it's going to seem very long-winded, but we're doing it to protect everything, aren't we? We're not doing it to rush it. We want it to be a good job. So, I'm hoping we're there.
Yes.
We're in.
We're in.
So,
how should it feel like when it goes on?
So I want it to be stiff.
It wants to be, when you put the adapter on, should it be quite a snug fit?
Yeah, very snug.
No sort of play.
No.
If there were play, you could get splints, couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, you can do numerous different things. I could do a little video on this actually at some point where I can make a Coke can into a shim.
Right. Well,
because there was a big shortage last year.
Right, okay. Well, what we'll do, we'll save that for another day. This might be if you've got a tip that's undersized. So there's two different tip sizes, isn't there, generally? Yeah.
If you're going into a fairway wood, well, driver like this, normally 335.
Yeah.
You know, you'll dip up to 370 as you're going into a driving iron and hybrids, and sort of the same throughout your irons. Really.
You need to check that, guys, if you are going to have, if you're repairing a club or, you know, broken shaft, make sure you order the right tip.
Yeah. I mean, if you Google, it's Golf WRX, that has all the information online. If you just Google whatever your irons are, whatever your wood are, whatever the spec is, it'll physically give you the rundown of what you need to repair your golf clubs. So, again, I'm nice and comfortable with this. What I'm going to do
customer's asked to line it up neutral,
Yeah,
haven't they?
customer wants the neutral lineup. So I'd essentially put the adapter in the head beforehand.
Neutral.
So I'm going to stick it in on neutral. We're using a brand new head here, which is not something I normally do. It's just that we don't get many ping requests nowadays.
No.
So I normally keep an old broken head around. I've got numerous tailor-mades and things like that. But we're going to have to be perfect.
I think that's neutral.
That's neutral. It's an aftermarket adapter, mate.
Oh, is it? I do apologise. just double checking.
So, again, I've done my double click. I know it's in there secure. I'm now going to use it to line up. So, for me, I use a piece of card. You can use paper, but you've got to be very, very, very quick before it sets.
What we're using here to glue with?
So I'm using a 2-part epoxy. You can get these in any of your local retail stores, really, that will work.
Is it the slow drying as well?
Yeah, you can use either.
Yeah.
I mean, your quick drying, the only quick drying that I've found that's any good that works is the Gorilla stuff and the Araldite. The Araldite Rapid is very, very good.
I personally use slow drying myself, you know, and obviously, you know, you might be talking sort of leave it 6 to 12 hours, but
yeah,
you know, it gives you that little bit of a, you know, 10 minutes just to make sure it's lined up right, and you know, if there's any mistakes.
So all I'm doing here now is I'm making a 50-50 mix. So 50% of the resin, 50% of the hardener. When I mix them together, obviously it's going to form the bond, and I'll have, with this stuff, 4 to 5 minutes before it sets on me.
Yeah.
So it is pretty fast drying, but it's not labelled as rapid.
I mean, it's all right for you that, but for these guys at home, there's a bit of pressure, isn't there?
Sticking your fingers to it. So for me, I use an old screwdriver. Something you don't have to. Again, people are late wanting to go home. So I'll mix the epoxy. Make sure it's all nice. Just changes colour slightly. It turns a little bit cloudy with the stuff that we use. So, all I'm going to do now is with my adapter that I had in the club head, is I'm going to put the epoxy in the adapter and then a little bit on the end of the shaft. So I'll put probably 3/4 of it into my adapter. Again, by pure skill. This might seem very easy. It isn't.
One of the things I use to apply is a golf, just a simple golf tee. When I'm putting, you know, epoxy into the head, or you know, applying it to the shaft.
So, essentially all I'm doing here, guys, is I'm going around that adapter, making sure each side's lubricated, so that we're not going to get any air bubbles, and it's going to set perfectly.
I think the next bit's the key. I think a lot of people forget to do this.
You're getting tired now. We've already done 5 today. Ready for bed.
It's just making sure you put a little bit on the shaft as well.
So yeah, essentially now, all I'm going to do, shaft's nice and prepped. I'm physically just going to use the card, spin my shaft on the card. Not too bothered about if I get any on the shaft, because I can wipe it up very quickly afterwards with a little bit of white spirit on a rag. And then I'm going to line it up as I'm putting it in. So I would do it over a rag, just in case you have any excess coming out. So I don't know if you want to hold a rag underneath, so we can show the guys. So all I'm going to do is physically, just slightly,
a little bit of twist in there.
Put a little twist in, just ease it in. I'm going to turn it over to look at my graphics. So I'm turning my graphics down. I'm then going to hold the head square down the shaft. See that my graphics, so here I've got the diamond going straight down the shaft. More than comfortable with that.
Again, you know, a few people might mention, you know, puring and things like that, but it is a home guide to
It's a home guide. We're not doing it as I'm doing the workshop. I mean, I can do a workshop video.
Yeah,
That could be another one.
We could do. If anybody would like to see it done in a workshop, you know, puring and how Sam would, you know, really prepare a shaft with all the tools he's got.
So there,
Something we could
all
do.
I've done is a little tap, just to make sure there's no air bubbles. And I'm going to give it a quick wipe round with just a dry towel. And then I'm going to put a little bit of white spirits when I can find my gun.
I'll tell you what though, just lining it up with a decal is a lot better job than I see from a lot of even pros and professionals, because the amount of, you know, amateurs I've seen with drivers and the decal that are not lined up with neutral, not even lined up in the setting that they're wanting to use.
No, absolutely.
And
So
we've seen that from factories as well, haven't we?
So all now I'm doing is essentially white spirit in the golf shaft.
My dad had that from Titleist. He bought a Titleist driver and he got it, you know, being fitted, I think it were in D4 or something like that. And when it came, the decal was just set neutral, so when he put it into position,
so
it were on
again,
top.
I've just double checked it, as obviously we've tapped it, given it a little bit of move. I don't want the vibration moving it at all. So I'm more than happy with that. Have you got the key? I'm going to take it out of the head just to let it dry. So all I've done there to clear the glue up is an old rag and physically
a bit of white spirit.
This is quite common with ping adapters. I know a few people that struggle to get them off. And it's not playing this afternoon for me.
You just have to give them a little bit of vibration, that's it.
Just like that. And we're all out, so I'll give it a little bit of another tap just to make myself sure. I'm happy with how it's gone. That is a good looking golf club.
And I think that's, you know, £30 well spent for that guy. It's an absolute cracking job.
Cracking job. Let's hope he enjoys it.
So if you've enjoyed watching that one, guys, you know, obviously, like we said earlier, it's not going to be for everyone, but there'll be certainly someone out there that's going to have learned a lot from that today, and hopefully might be able to fix some of them broken clubs, and you know, might even inspire someone to start to do this for their friends. You know, you can quite easily, you know, build up a little bit of a workshop at home, can't you? You know, with some of these essentials, and who knows, it could be a little business in that for yourself. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and you know, we'll see you in a few days' time. Bye.